Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois. He sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. He also served in the Air Force in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Congressman, thanks for joining us on this holiday.
You bet.
So tell us about McMaster. I know you didn't serve together, but you know his reputation. What's your reaction to this pick?
Oh, I think it's a great pick. I mean, one of the great things about our country is there's so many good people to choose from, and he's one of them. So, you know, as you mentioned, he was in the largest tank battle since World War II, the Battle of 73 Easting. Did a great job in terms of counterinsurgency. But one of the actual kind of unsaid things is he wrote a book called Dereliction of Duty, where he talked about, you know, in essence, the military's responsibility to talk to civilian leaders, to challenge the status quo. And I think that's what we need in the White House. That's what we need. The Pentagon and the National Security Branch is somebody that's willing to speak out and say, you know, we can't keep doing things like we're doing. We need to challenge the status quo, and he seems like the guy to do it. Yeah,
you bring up dereliction of duty. A big message in that was that political leaders kind of trumped the advice of military commanders in Vietnam. Of course, one criticism of the White House is what is the chain of command, right? And that was one of the reasons we understood that Harward took his name out. Well, what will be key for General McMaster to be a successful national security advisor in your view?
Well, he obviously has to understand he works for the president, and all you see in the 8 years of President Obama, the 8 years of President Bush prior, ultimately the president makes the decision. President Bush went against the advice of some of his generals and did the surge in Iraq, which was right. And so he has to understand that his role is to be an advisor to the president, to give him the best advice he can, but ultimately he has to do what the president says. But I think he has the kind of pedigree, and I think he has the kind of reputation to be able to challenge President Trump, and I think that's what President Trump frankly wants as he tries to get his NSC in order.
So we had President Trump, in effect, picking a fight with an ally, a public fight with an ally over the weekend, quoting what seemed to be false, possibly, or at least exaggerated reports of migrant problems in Europe, in Sweden specifically. We've had other cases of this, where, you know, with Australia and elsewhere, where you have these public spats seemingly over meaningless things. From your perspective, how damaging are these things? I mean, they're often dismissed by some Republicans. Well, listen to watch what he does rather than listen to what he says. But these seem to be having a real effect on these relationships.
Well, I think words have an impact, and I think where the impact can be is in people looking at this saying, well, you know, where did that come from? It kind of came out of left field. You know, the former prime minister with his tweet. I think it's more of an embarrassment that this happened. I don't think this is the kind of thing destroy the diplomatic relation with Sweden. But, you know, as we've said, when you get in campaign rallies, I've done campaign rallies, sometimes, you know, you get in front of yourself and you say things that you look back and say, I shouldn't have said them. I think this was a mistake. It was an embarrassment. But at the end of the day, look, our relationship with Sweden is fine. Again, the people around the president are very good. I just think he needs to be a little more conscious and caging his words in terms of when he talks about allies and things along that line.
Diplomatically put, Congressman Kinzinger. On another issue, on the travel ban, CNN's reporting is that the president will likely this week release a modified executive order, among other things, exempting green card holders, which was one of the issues here. I know that in the past you'd expressed your reservations about the first executive order. Will a change like that be enough for you to support this measure?
Well, it depends. I want to see what it finally looks like. As I've said, every president, every new administration, I think, has a responsibility to ensure that the vetting process is correct and everything else. I think, obviously, the way the last one was rolled out was bad when you have, in essence, green card holders, permanent citizens, people that worked with us as translators in Iraq that were caught up in that. Hopefully that doesn't happen in this next one. I think it's within his authority to do it. But the other thing, the only other kind of concern I have is if, and it sounds like they are, if Iraq is included. Iraq right now is our chief ally in fighting the war on terror against ISIS. I think it doesn't send a great message. You know, in fact, we actually basically created the vetting standards in Iraq, and they have very tight vetting standards for who gets an Iraqi passport. But I do think this is within the president's purview, and if this new executive order cleans up what the 9th District Court overturned, it may stand.
Congressman Kinzinger, thanks very much.
As always, thanks.
A top European